Just like last night during the PGLA Puzzle Exchange when Tara Rogers was moderating and she kept saying, imagine if I'm taller, this and that. Well, I need you to imagine that I'm a little bit shorter and more gray hair and have a slight Georgia accent because unfortunately, Greg Fullerton, who volunteered to moderate, he collected all of the information and slides and things and volunteered to moderate the show and tell. Also was a victim of the computer thing that crashed all the airline software. So we're just winging this, but a couple announcements. Please remember to fill out your pink Ann Williams survey and drop it off at the registration desk. And also there's a QR code in the program, Puzzle Parley program, for filling out a survey about this. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, give us ideas for future projects. And one more thing I'm going to do that only your young kids will know. It's time for my Be Real. Who wants to be part of my Be Real, okay? And if you don't know what Be Real is, ask your grandkids.
Oh, and also, we'd like to thank Elizabeth Fullerton, who is Greg's daughter. She actually is the one who put this entire slideshow together, and she got it to me at 11:30 p.m. last night from the Atlanta airport. And let's give a big round of applause for the Fullertons. Who's here?
First up, we have Janelle. Right when your dinner's being served, of course.
Hello, you might remember me from yesterday. This is the puzzle that I was going to make for the exchange, and then it turned out that it was way too expensive to cut and took way too long, and I was no way I was going to get it finished. So I decided, or actually Elizabeth got me right when I was like, okay, I need to change my plan. And she's like, oh, hey, do you have anything you want to show and tell? And I was like, I've got all the photos already ready for the slideshow, so sure. So this is a puzzle that is made out of glass. It is dichroic glass, which is a micron-thin layers of metal that are sprayed on glass, and it makes it metallic reflective. And then I take that and I engrave it on a laser cutter, and then I put a sheet of clear glass on top of that, stick it in a kiln at 14,000 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is called a full fuse when you fuse glass, and it makes something that's basically a glass coaster. And then I take a diamond bandsaw. Let's see what kind of photos I have. It sounds really loud.
People can't hear you.
It's perfect.
Okay, she said it's perfect. Everybody else back there, I've got thumbs up everywhere. Let's see what kind of photos I got. So that is the sheet before I have engraved it. And then there's the clear glass that goes on top of it. And then this right here, this top one, that one over there is after it's been engraved. And then the top one you can see, these little ridges, that is from the wet diamond bandsaw. And it leaves it all scratched. So how do I get rid of that? Well, I put it in the kiln again, which is called a brain fart. Fire polish. So I put it in the kiln at 1,340 degrees Fahrenheit. And this one you can see, it cleans up the edges and makes them all super shiny. And you can literally see the layers of it when you look at the side of it. So I think that's all the photos I have. But it was an idea that I was like, this would be really, really cool And I literally could not find anybody who had ever done it before with fused glass. I found some water jet cut. And as far as I understand water jet cut, I'm gonna have to talk to Phil of the Puzzle Company to see if this is even possible to do water jet cut versus bandsaw cut. But this is a 4" by 4" piece. It took 5 hours to cut. And it has a whole 16 pieces. And it wears out a $60 diamond bandsaw blade for every single one of them. So it's kind of a labor of love, but they turn out amazing. If you guys saw them at my table, Kim, did you bring it to show? No, okay. So you don't get to see it unless you saw it earlier. But you see photos. So that's it.
Christine Latin with a shovel puzzle.
Okay, so tomorrow you're going to get to hear me talk all about George Washington puzzles, which is my other subject that I collect. But I also collect puzzles of nature and especially birds. And I had seen this Hermes puzzle on eBay, and I was like, Hermes? Like, they make fancy scarves, right? They make very expensive clothing. That I was intrigued by an Hermes puzzle. So I bought it. It was just a bunch of pieces in a box. And this is what it looked like when I assembled it. You can see it is complete. It is actually a puzzle of a scarf design, right? So Hermes is very famous for these fancy scarves that cost hundreds of dollars. And this puzzle is the same design as a scarf design of theirs that is, oops. Which one is the pointer?
The right button.
The right button is the, I want the, oh, here we go, laser
Yeah,
pointer.
the laser's in the middle.
This one's called Equator. And the design is actually a design from a designer who is also a famous French natural history kind of artist named Robert Gallet. And he did this design for Hermes. The original scarf was produced in 1988. And then it was reissued in 2019. So I think this puzzle was probably from when they reissued it in 2019. I haven't been able to find anything about it online. But it's really a beautiful puzzle. It has my favorite bird, the roseate spoonbill. There's a bunch of them here. There's also a big cat. Robert Gallet he actually made a lot of trips to Africa. He was really passionate about big cats and actually ended up being really involved in big cat conservation with the Panthera organization. And I mean, it's got all these beautiful animals. I think I have another picture. Yeah. So you can see that it's a really nice design. Every single one of these animals is cut out as a sort of figural. And I took all the figurals out here so you can kind of appreciate that. And then the pieces are sort of, you know, you can kind of see their, I don't think I have any other picture. Oh yeah, so here's a picture where you can see the piece shapes. It's sort of, you know, it's an interlocking cut, kind of bigger pieces. So I was curious about this puzzle. I didn't know who had made it. I posted it on my Instagram and was kind of like, does anyone know anything about this puzzle? And Puzzle Michelle Wilson sent me a message. They said, yeah, we made that. But we can't say it because Hermes made us like say that we wouldn't tell anyone, so don't tell anybody. But if you see one of these Hermes puzzles, know that they were made by Puzzle Michelle Wilson. I think they were made by some of the really talented, like most talented cutters at Puzzle Michelle Wilson. And they are more interlocking than your typical Puzzle Michelle Wilson. And this is a super fun puzzle. So if you see one of these for sale for a reasonable price, you should snatch it up because they're really cool puzzles. That's my show and tell.
Susan Weinberg? Susanna Weinberg? I already did Vanna White earlier today, so call me Vanna Conrad. Wait, Conrad? Wait,
Hi. Anne Williams in her talk this morning mentioned my maternal grandmother, Alice Windnagel, and she said she didn't want to steal my thunder, but I kind of thought I might learn something new about my grandmother from her talk. She was my Grammy Alice, and I'm highlighting her puzzles. I need to do this thing just to show you the variety. A few people did this puzzle today.
Center button is the laser.
Oh, and I have to
Right
point
button
it there.
forwards.
Yeah. And so those are just, she used different calendar art and had a large variety of things she cut. She had a tough childhood, grew up in Virginia, smoked a pipe as a grandmother. And she landed as an adult in Penn Yan, New York, just a little bit south of here, and lived for most of her life there and in other Finger Lakes towns. She was a self-taught puzzle cutter. She began in the Depression, like a lot of people, and kept at it for a few more decades into the 60s until her vision started failing. For a little while, she did it by feel, she used to say, even though she couldn't see well. And we used to get puzzles as kids for Christmas presents and things like that. And I love the variety of pictures that she chose. In the Depression, she rented them out for about a nickel a week for people who were at loose ends, not working, and got very popular in her area. What I love the most is the beauty of her pieces. They have a lot of variety and they're very graceful. And so these are just a couple examples of how there's a mitered corner that she put together, and there it is together, and so on. And then, I think you guys call this color border cutting or something?
Color line cutting.
Yeah. And she does a lot of that tricky stuff. And these pointy border pieces. And I always feel like I'm really close to my grandmother when I come across one. Oh, you tricky person, you grandmother. And I never get the feeling when I'm doing her puzzles that she boxed herself into a problem. She's always, am I coming too close to this?
You're good, you're good.
She cut everything freehand with commotion going around. You know, she would just be off while people were eating and clattering dishes going on right now, and she would be cutting puzzles and conversing. And my mom, who is now 96, when she was just a young kid of 7 or so, would be given the pieces to individually sand. And my grandmother's husband was a woodworker and machinist, and so he helped advise about plywood and glues, and there were always a lot of experiments. It was a really kind of a family enterprise. So the main puzzle I'm highlighting, which actually these pieces here are from, is this puzzle that was, for this she used I think what's called a romance or a story map that was about, it's called Indian Episodes of New York. And of course these were also European people's episodes of New York, but it was drawn by a European person, so. And it was researched and drawn in Penn Yan, again down south of here on Cuca Lake, and published here in Rochester. And then it was cut by my grandmother in Penn Yan. It's a pretty challenging puzzle, as you might imagine. There's the double border and then a lot of things that, you know, well, just a lot of detail. And also Long Island is in an insert up in the corner, so if you're doing it for the first time and you're thinking it's starting to look like New York State, but then you land down in this right-hand corner and suddenly there's no Long Island, so it's confusing. And this puzzle is going to Penn Yan to the Historical Society there on Tuesday. So it's part of a mission where my mom and I wanted it to have a good next life, and so we're hoping that a lot of people there will appreciate it. They have an Indian room and a pretty extensive museum there. So that's where it's going. And I hope people still do it, but because I like puzzles to be handled, they're very satisfying. Yeah. That's it.
So I put the puzzle on the table over there, and if other people have their puzzles, the show and tell items here, we can leave them on the table for a little bit after dinner, but we do have to go up these tables at some point to hotel staff to clean up the room. Whoops, you already went ahead. We had to skip someone who wasn't here.
Hi, I'm Becca Boyd. Hi. I'm going to be really quick. This is a little puzzle that I bought in an antique barn. It was in a little Ziploc baggie. And I've seen a lot of push fits, but I've never seen one with this many straight lines. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to share it. And it's actually called, I think, Where Peace Abides. I'm going to go forward. How do I?
Right button.
Ah, there. Okay. So I pulled it apart a little bit so that you could see how they had cut it originally. But you could keep pulling it apart and pulling it apart. I find it really meditative. One night when I couldn't sleep, I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and sat there and did this puzzle. I've got it with me if anyone would like to look at it. And that's really all. Other than 2 years ago, I told everyone I was doing a family history of all my family cutters. I've got a little preliminary version of it if anyone wants to see how many different branches of my family cut puzzles. So that's it.
Lauren Daywood.
One moment.
Uh-oh.
So, a few years ago, a couple years ago, I started playing around with laminating veneer on the backs of my puzzles. And this is a piece of black window veneer. I made plywood out of maple veneer. And I looked at it, and it was beautiful, and I thought, I have no idea what to do with that. So it sat on my shelf for
Lauren, hold up the microphone.
I'm sorry. It sat on my shelf for months and months, almost a year. And then I remember that one of my friends is a painter. And I said, hey, Amber, I have a canvas for you. That's right there. So I cut it, I gave her the canvas, and she did this drawing in pencil, Prismacolor colored pencils. And then I took it back and I cut it up in little pieces, and then I gave it back to her. It's like, I need it before July because I got to show it to other people. Anyway, my cuts are ordinary. It's just grid cut, but I think it came out really well. And I did not prepare to actually get up in front of people and talk, so I didn't prepare a long speech.
You got a couple more slides.
Okay. Joe?
I just going to mention to folks, a few of you folks in the room here. I know Phil's here and his wife, and Chris Danner is here, and Mark and Isabel are here. We all attended the Puzzle Quake in San Francisco. This was last month. It's a free event. This is the second one we've had. It was held a year ago. And as you can see, Mark and Isabel in the back. Next to Phil is Haley. Haley is a cutter from Arizona. Is that right, Phil?
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, yes, thank you. And this gentleman here, it was an ambassador from Wentworth. And this is Pamela Lee. Unfortunately, it's not a great shot of her, but Pamela and a friend of hers are the people who started this event. And it's a great event in San Francisco. We've got a couple other pictures. Pamela asked me to bring my Pagelia puzzles. I brought about 60 of them, had them out there on trays to display. Okay. And I did want to mention this puzzle. It was a little bit of a surprise to see this. Peter Durholm out of England cut this, and it was put on Facebook a couple of weeks back, and people might have seen it on Facebook. And I was very shocked to see it at the Puzzle Quake, and I talked to Pamela about it. She said, yeah, the moment he put it up for sale, I grabbed it and I paid quite a bit extra to get it, basically overnight shipped to California so that she could have it on display and put it out for people to assemble at the event. So, anyways, they're planning on holding another one next year if you're in the neighborhood of Puzzle Quake. And by the way, Phil and Elms from Waterford and others all donated puzzles, and it was quite a nice event.
Mark? Sorry.
Hey there, everybody. 2Ps and MGC. But anyway, I wanted to talk real quick about my puzzle. And this is only a portion of it. This is my Best in Show entry. There's a little history between me and my interest in mushrooms. I remember years back I was dating a Russian woman, and many Russians are really into mycology, so we would go wild mushroom hunting to eat them, regular mushrooms, nothing crazy. And really delicious mushrooms, and if you know what you're looking for, maitake, chicken of the woods, shrimp of the woods, and a few others. It's a lot of fun, and when you find them and you find ones that you can really eat, it's delicious, and you can collect them, bring them home and compare them. And then I also went to Costa Rica 2 years ago, and I went to kind of an eco-village, hippie community kind of a thing, a spiritual retreat center, and I got involved in, I did some shamanic ceremonies. Anyone here ever done ayahuasca? One? Anyone here ever done peyote? All right, so when I was in Costa Rica, I basically became friends with a lot of very hippie type people. I discovered that I have a very big inner hippie in me. And so I've ever since been attracted to mushroom art. I tried making some of my own AI art, because I'm not an artist, to paint stuff like this. And I found out it's really kind of tricky to communicate with the AI generator to come up with an image that is really nice and has good detail. But I found an artist who does know how to communicate properly and generated these images. So that's the full puzzle. And many of you have seen it, and I hope a couple of you have voted on it. But this is kind of my image. I like to cut highly intricate puzzles. This is a pinnacle puzzle. It's like my 10th one I ever made. So very irregular edged. It does have a few dropouts in there. And I cut this over a period of 3 days. I did it in 3 sections. And so this is the main mushroom cap. You can see my MGC piece here and a frog down below. So with my pinnacle puzzles, I still put the MGC piece in it, because that's my child wearing a baseball hat. And for those of you that don't know, my signature piece for MGC is actually dual-purposed. If you see a puzzle with the boy facing to the right, I don't know, can you see that? So when it's facing to the right, that means I picked the image or I had say on the image choice. If you see the boy facing to the left, or the child, that means I had nothing to do with the image choice. It was a commission, and a customer sent me the image. So that's a differentiation in my puzzles. These are some of my whimsies that I decided in there. So last year, after I went to Puzzle Jam South, I started making a few pinnacle puzzles, and I decided when I made my first mushroom puzzle, when I hunt mushrooms, you usually find snails and bugs and slugs on the thing. So I decided, well, let me cut a couple snails in there. And I discovered that snails are probably one of the coolest figurals I ever cut. And until last year, I never cut one before, and I've been doing this for 29 years. And you can give them a personality just by kind of adjusting their little antenna into different positions. So, and then you can have them kind of looking at you, like the one up in the upper left corner, or and this one down here. They can be sniffing something on the ground, kind of curious. And if any of you do the Victory flamingo puzzle that I designed the cut for, that I was selling in, you can get it on victorypuzzles.com. If you're looking between the legs of the flamingo is eating the shrimp. And I decided to put a snail in the bottom. So the snail is basically hightailing it in the opposite direction of the flamingo, trying to get out of there so he's not the next snack. And this is another part of the puzzle. More snails in there. And then my signature piece for Pinnacle, it's a pea sticking out of the puzzle piece. So you'll always find my entry C piece and the Pinnacle kind of logo in there. But, oh, so anyway, that's my entry. Highly intricate, a lot of split knobs. It's now owned by Mr. Merkel. And a fun little puzzle, and you'll be seeing more of them because I like making mushroom puzzles. Thank you very much.
Philip, can you grab here?
Appreciate it. I'll fill you in a little bit more than I did last night because I had some people who said, now how is this done? So we cut material with highly pressurized water. 50,000 pounds per square inch. Most people can't quite comprehend what that means, but if you have a power washer, that runs about 1,000, maybe 1,200 psi, and we're at 50,000 psi. And the bead of water from that power washer is pretty wide, versus what we do, it's about as thin as, I take my hat off, but you just have to trust me on how thin it is. The water stream is extremely thin, and I believe there's a video that was there last night. You can see the bead of water there. Barely, that's about 3/1000 of an inch. So therefore we produce some very intricate opportunities. And that's about the extent of what we do. From our perspective, we are still learning the wood business, so we're intrigued by the opportunities that you all are providing us in terms of educating us on what the market is, and it's been fun to listen to everybody talk about the variety of things that are out there and how we should pursue things. So we're very open to custom, we're very open to whatever you come up with, and we're having a great time and glad to be here.
Next up, Ann Williams.
Thank you. And thanks, by the way, for reminding people to fill out their pink survey form. And if you've somehow placed it with your stuff and you can't lay your hands on it here in Rochester, feel free to mail it to me later on. I want to talk today about comments about puzzles. In my collecting career, I had many puzzles that came with notes attached to them about people assembling a puzzle. I remember one man who had to put a note in the box, said, "This puzzle belonged to Father. In his memory, we put it together every New Year's." They had numbered all the pieces on the back, because I guess it got to be a bit of a chore to put the puzzle together every New Year's. Another collection I got had the people who owned it were great puzzle doers, and they had written on the bottom of the box, every time they assembled a puzzle, which members of the family were involved, the date, the condition of the puzzle, and what the weather was. So that was interesting. A more formal example comes from the British Jigsaw Puzzle Club, which was founded in 1933 in London. This picture I'm not going to talk about at all because Bob has an example of the same picture on the back wall there, and he tells you exactly which scene from Tosca this is in much more detail than I can, but it's an early scene in the opera. And then here on the lower left, we have the cover of the comments booklet. And the British Jigsaw Puzzle Club put one of these little booklets. It was about maybe 4 or 5 inches wide and a couple of inches high, in with every puzzle. And as I read through this booklet, I was amused because the first person here, whose name I can't decipher, said this was a good puzzle and it was difficult. Okay. The second person just reported that it was complete. And the third person agreed that it was indeed difficult. But we come down to the last line, and this puzzler, you can just sort of hear them sneering. It was easy. Then I got to the next page, and again, we have a few easies and a few difficulties. But what fascinated me was this signature right here, of Princess Helena Victoria, who was one of Queen Victoria's many granddaughters. She lived to be into the late 1940s, and she had rented this puzzle from the British Jigsaw Puzzle Club in 1940, just a few years before she died. And so I want to encourage all of you, and I'm not talking just about the makers of the puzzles, but the collectors of the puzzles. Think about some way to preserve the history of the puzzle, who did it, and what they thought about it. And it doesn't have to be, it's very easy to make a booklet like this. You can take a sheet of paper, fold it a couple of times, cut it, staple it, and you have a 16-page booklet very easily. But it could just be an index card that you put in the puzzle with a couple of columns for date, name, and so on. And finally, I want to mention that the British Royals are still borrowers of the British Jigsaw Puzzle Club, which is now known as the British Jigsaw Puzzle Library. And one of the people who ran the club in the early 2000s, David Cooper, told me that the Royals always ordered a lot of puzzles to be sent to Sandringham, where they spent Christmas. And he had observed over the years that when the royal family was, let's say, not in perfect harmony, when they were sort of almost at each other's throats, that they would order more puzzles. And presumably this was because they all wanted to be in different rooms. They didn't want to be in the same room doing one puzzle together. They wanted to be off by themselves. So at any rate, again, I would just encourage you to think about preserving some of the history of how your puzzles are being used, whether you're a collector or a manufacturer. Thank you.
Now I'm going to try and channel my inner Greg and Elizabeth Fullerton. He would like you to guess what state or country this is. Anyone? Oops, maybe it's not the right orientation. Now? I believe these are recent acquisitions of them, where like the provinces are cut out and stained differently. And then apparently they found a company that if you tell them the state, regardless of the state, for a flat fee, they will cut it out and cut each county into a different piece. And so they did this for New York, and then they did this for Georgia. The company for the same price did this, not knowing that Georgia has 159 counties. And apparently they are not answering his emails anymore. Elizabeth apparently spent a couple years in the Peace Corps in Turkmenistan, and they kept looking for some kind of puzzle related to the area, and they found this about the Republic of Kazakhstan with some of the interior states cut into pieces. Definitely an unusual find. This is a multi-piece puzzle of the Guggenheim, and the artist managed to use the grain of the wood and stain to invoke shading, which is very clever and beautiful.
That's the one in Bilbao, designed by Frank Gehry.
What do you say? What do you say? That's it for show and tell. Thank you everyone who brought us their very interesting and diverse items. And I think either now or soon we will move into the awards. Who's doing those? There we go.
Was in charge of the Paige Elliott Puzzle Exchange this year. We had a number of 13 fabulous entries, and y'all voted, and we tallied them up while y'all were puzzling earlier and taking a nap, and we have a winner. You ready? Can we have a drum roll? Okay. It is the Eclipse Puzzle by Jesse and Jessica of Louisville.
You had to go home to get some kids.
And they are not here because they have two fabulous little kids who need sleep. And if you saw Jesse, it's clear that mom and dad need sleep too.
And our next award is the best in show. So, drum roll, please. And our winner is, the puzzle title is Down the Rabbit Hole by Tara Rogers. In case you didn't know, this makes the second year in a row that Sarah has won it.
Raffle.
up here, the raffle is the next thing that's happening.
Hello, everybody. Let's start with something that is not raffle related, but also near and dear to my heart this weekend was the speed puzzling competition that took place earlier today. We have fancy, lovely trophies for our first place team. And I would like to share with you that our first place team finished the puzzle in 12 minutes and 22 seconds. What? So, would Richard, Kayla, and Karen come up here to accept your trophies? A round of applause again for our speedy puzzlers here. To the raffle table. To build more suspense, I just want to thank everyone that donated to the raffle. If you didn't know, the raffle goes towards our Armstrong grant, which helps people get here that otherwise would not be able to come. Last Parley, we had a record sales of raffle tickets, and this year we surpassed that. So thank you so much to everyone that got tickets and donated. Round of applause to all of you and the donors as well. Thank you so much. And now on to our highly coveted multi-clutter puzzle that was cut by all of the instructors this weekend. This bag is very full. Cut by all the instructors this weekend. If you win this one, meet me at the back table because I need to break it down. It's still put together back there. So our winner is at the bottom here. Just really mixing it up. 754171. This person might not be here, it's on the back. 754171. Amazing. I'll make it back. It's legit, it's not fake. We have a new class actually. Oh, perfect. Hand it over to Chris. Thank you everyone again.
Thank you, Sarah Schuler. You did a great job organizing the raffle this year. Really appreciate you. Give a big hand for Sarah. Thanks for all of you for being here. I hope you won something great and you supported the Bob Armstrong educational grants that really make a difference in bringing people to our events every time we do this. And we appreciate everybody who's doing things to the raffle. I just have a couple quick announcements, and then you guys can do whatever the heck you want. Our programming starts tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We have a bagel break. This is not in the program. This is a new development. So we're going to have presentations from Christine Letton, Chris Bench from The Strong, Jason Rubler, I'm going to mess up his last name, Jason Sumpcraft. And we're going to close out with a great panel discussion. In between that, around 10:15, 10:30, we're going to have a bagel bar. So we can have a little snack. That's great. The other thing to mention is the casual puzzling rooms are open till 1 a.m. tonight, and then they are closed for the rest of the events. This is because of logistics, unfortunately. Tomorrow morning, you are more than free to have a puzzle out somewhere in the lobby or one of the back tables in the ballroom, wherever you want to put puzzles together, feel free, but we need to clear everything out of Regency Room A and B where casual puzzling is happening by 1 a.m. So if you have brought a puzzle that's in there, you can play till 1 a.m., but it's got to go out of there. Otherwise, we're going to have to hunt it down tomorrow morning. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for being here. Had a great day. I think Ann's got one more thing to say.
I know some people are going to be out of here really early in the morning to catch flights, hopefully, or start on a long drive. So why don't we take a few minutes to thank the steering committee and That includes, would you tell us who those?
Can I do it in reverse alphabetical order? Okay, 'cause I'm always last. I'm going to thank me first. No, I'm kidding, right? Roz Ray, Conrad Armstrong, Bob Armstrong, Jess Comero, Diane Bizzle, Sarah Schuler, and Janelle Amelli are all part of the leadership steering committee, and we do it because we love this event, and we're trying to make this the best thing possible, and hearing all the nice comments from all of you really makes it worthwhile. Can the rest of the steering committee just stand up so people know who I mean, if you know who we are. Melinda and Bob are both our senior advisors. And we have, and people like Ann who help us all the way, and other past steering committee members who taught us how to put on a great show for everybody. We have lots of volunteers and sponsors. We have so many people to thank. We could just spend all night here thanking people, and just know that we're grateful for everybody who's contributed to this event. And with that, enjoy the rest of Saturday night. Take it easy.